Let's talk about one of the most controversial, most misunderstood figures in all of political history, Niccolo Machiavelli. His name has literally become an insult, a shorthand for cunning, manipulation, and a ruthless quest for power. But is that really the whole story? Not even close.
This quote really gets to the heart of it. It's this wild paradox, right? His ideas are so powerful, so baked into the way politics actually works, that leaders use his playbook all the time. And yet, nobody, absolutely nobody, wants to admit to being Machiavellian. It's like the ultimate political slur. So what on earth did this guy suggest that was so scandalous it got him condemned by the church, but so effective that it became a secret rulebook for leaders for the next 500 years? Well, to really get his answer, you first have to understand the world he was living in.
To really get where Machiavelli is coming from, you have to picture his world. See, he wasn't just some philosopher in an ivory tower. He was a product of his time. And his times were, to put it mildly, an absolute mess.
Think about it. While other places like France and Britain were becoming these strong, unified countries, 15th century Italy was just a disaster. It was broken up into all these little rival city-states, constantly at war with each other. You had powerful lords and a super-corrupt church, both making sure Italy stayed divided. This made the whole peninsula a sitting duck for foreign armies to just waltz in. As a diplomat, Machiavelli saw this firsthand, and it drove him nuts. He felt this deep humiliation for his homeland.
So, faced with this total crisis, Machiavelli doesn't sit down and write some lofty, philosophical book about the perfect society. No way. He writes a practical, down-and-dirty, urgent survival guide on how to grab power and hold on to it. And that guide, of course, was The Prince.
And let's be really clear about who this prince is. He's not talking about some guy who was just born into the job, a traditional king. He's writing for a totally new kind of leader, a bold, ambitious political entrepreneur, someone who could come from anywhere, seize control, and hammer together a unified, powerful state using nothing but their own guts and smarts.
And right here, this is the birth of what we now call political realism. Machiavelli's whole point was basically this: forget how you wish the world worked. A leader has to deal with the world as it is, and it's a brutal, unforgiving place. If you try to act like a saint when everyone around you is a sinner, you're not just going to get crushed, you're going to take your people down with you.
Okay, so now we get to the really juicy stuff, the core advice, the ideas that made him so infamous.
So here's the thing. Everything, and I mean everything Machiavelli says, is built on this one core belief about people, and it's not a pretty picture. He basically thinks that at our core, we're selfish, we're not grateful, we're liars, we're cowards, and we're greedy. You can't build a strong state hoping people will just be good. You have to build it based on the reality of what they actually are.
And that dark view of people leads us right to his most famous question. His answer? Look, it's great if people love you, but it is way safer if they fear you. Why? Because love is unpredictable. People love you when they feel like it, and they can stop whenever they want. But fear? Oh, the prince is in control of fear. It's a tool you can rely on, one that doesn't depend on anyone else's mood. It's a much sturdier foundation for power.
And to use that power right, a ruler needs to be two animals at the same time. You have to be the clever fox, smart enough to see the traps and navigate the tricky stuff with cunning, but you also have to be the ferocious lion, strong enough to scare off your enemies, the wolves. See, being cunning without strength is pointless, but being strong without any cunning is just reckless. You need both.
And there it is, probably the single most famous and most damning sentence he ever wrote. This is the heart of what people call Machiavellianism. But what did he actually mean by it?
This is so important. The end he was talking about wasn't about the ruler getting rich or famous. The one and only goal that mattered was the national interest, the safety and survival of the state itself. So if a leader had to lie or cheat or, even worse, to protect the nation from falling apart or being invaded, well, in his view, that ultimate goal justified those harsh means.
This is a really key distinction to make. It's not that Machiavelli was some evil guy who just loved being cruel. It's more accurate to say his political advice was amoral. He basically argued for two sets of rules. For regular citizens in their daily lives, yeah, be good, be honest. But for the ruler, acting for the state, you're playing a different game. It's a game where survival is more important than traditional morality. He essentially cut the cord between politics and ethics.
So where does all this leave us? Why are we still talking about this guy 500 years later? Because his ideas didn't just stay in a book. They radically reshaped the world we live in.
I mean, just look at this. In 1513, he writes The Prince, splitting politics from old-school morality. Fast forward about a century, and you get the Treaty of Westphalia, which creates the whole system of independent nation-states that he was dreaming of. And today, the entire field of political realism, the idea that countries are just out for their own self-interest and power, is built right on the foundation he laid.
This also reveals something huge. Machiavelli looked at the church and saw it as a political problem, something that was keeping Italy weak and divided. So he argued for a new idea to unite people, a secular idea, nationalism, a shared identity based on the state. By pushing to get religion out of politics, he didn't just set the stage for a united Italy, he became one of the founding fathers of modern secularism in Europe.
So let's just boil it all down. What's the bottom line? Machiavelli was a total game changer. He gave us political realism. He separated politics from ethics and religion. He was a huge champion for the idea of the nation-state. Most importantly, he forced us to look at power for what it is, not what we wish it were. His advice might make us uncomfortable, but for half a millennium, it has been an undeniably practical, if sometimes brutal, guide to how the world works.
And all of this leaves us with one last tough question to think about. In our modern world, with all its rivalries and threats, can any leader really afford to be purely idealistic? Or is having at least a little bit of Machiavelli's ruthless pragmatism not just a choice, but a flat-out necessity for survival? Something to think about.